Good morning again. I'm Maurice Barrett, and thanks for tuning in to Food for Thought. I've got some more for you to think about. This week I've been thinking about a scripture that I read in Luke's Gospel. I'm up to Luke in my morning meditations, and a verse really came out to me. Luke 4 verse 33. So likewise, so it's a conclusion to a dialogue, I'll look at it. So likewise, whosoever he be of you that forsakes not all that he has, he cannot be my disciple. So how many disciples has Jesus got? Not many. Not many is my conclusion. Well, the strong words indeed. And at the end of the dialogue he says, he that has ears to hear, let him hear. So he expects that not many people will understand and hear. Whenever he says that, and he says it lots of times in the Bible, he who has ears to hear, let him hear. In other words, not many can accept this. Well, the context's important, so let me look at the context. It starts in verse 25. And there went great multitudes with him, and he turned and said unto them, If any man come to me, and hate not his father, his mother, his wife, his children, his brothers and sisters, yes, and his own life, he cannot be my disciple. Well, those are strong words. Of course I love my wife, of course I love my children, but if I'm asked to forsake them, people will think I hate them. You've left them, you hate them, you don't love them anymore. So it appears as though you hate them. That's what you have to be willing to endure if you want to be a disciple. And whosoever does not bear his cross, and you bear your cross to be crucified, and come after me, he cannot be my disciple. Well, then Jesus gives two illustrations, and they're easy to understand the principle. Here's the first one. For which of you intending to build a tower sits not down first and counts the cost, whether he have sufficient money to finish it? Lest after he has laid the foundation and is not able to finish it, all that behold begin to mock him and say, this man began to build and he couldn't finish it. You'll become a laughingstock if you try to be a disciple. If you put your hand to the plough and look back, you're not fit for the kingdom, and you'll be a laughingstock. So what's he saying with that? Well, it's simple. Boiled down, it means this. Don't start what you can't finish. And he's talking about discipleship. And then he gives another illustration. Or what king going to make war with another king doesn't sit down first and consults whether he's able with 10,000 men to meet him that cometh against him with 20,000, or else when he's a great way off, he sends an ambassage and desires conditions of peace. Unconditional surrender will be your slaves, but he saved his 10,000 men. What's the moral of this? Same message. Don't go into battle if you know you'll lose. Don't start discipleship if you don't think you can finish. Surrender. Don't be a laughingstock. And then he says this, so likewise, whosoever he be of you that forsake not all that he has, he cannot be my disciple. So it's unambiguous, isn't it? It's very strong. You've got to be willing to forsake everything. All right, you say, God's not asked me to do this, and God may never ask, but you yourself have to be willing and count the cost before you'll say, I'll be a disciple. Are you willing to forsake everything? That's the question you've got to ask before you sign up for discipleship. Then he says, salt's good. But if the salt's lost its savour, how can it be salted? If salt loses the power to be salt, it's neither fit for the land nor for the dunghill. Men cast it out. It's not fit for men. It's not even fit to be put on the dunghill. It's not even fit to be flushed down the toilet. That's what he's saying. That's strong. And then he says, to end it, him that has ears to hear, let him hear. In other words, not many will get this. So, That's what Jesus said. So let me challenge you, because talk's cheap. Everyone sings. What Christian doesn't sing, I surrender all to Jesus I surrender, all to him I freely give? They're lying when they sing that. They've given very little. Most Christians have given very little. They don't know what sacrifice is. They don't know what suffering for Christ is in this modern age. It's a dirty word. It's not talked about, suffering for Christ. God's a sugar daddy, isn't he, to bless us? So let me challenge you. If God challenged you, a choice between God and your children, could you forsake them? Not many could, in my experience. If it came to a choice between God and your husband or your wife, could you forsake them? No, very few. If it came to a choice between God and your job, could you forsake it? Could you walk away from a job that was your security? Trust God for your income. If it came between a choice between God and your home, could you forsake it? If it came to a choice between God and your life, could you forsake it? Could you die as a martyr? You say, well, God wouldn't ask you to do those things. That's a Christian who doesn't know the Bible. I can give you illustrations of every one of these examples where God challenged them to do it. And the last one, how many martyrs have laid down their life? So if you're willing to lay down your life, everything else, your wife, your children, your house, your job, it pales into insignificance if you're willing to give your life. Well, let me challenge you and finish with a quote by Jim Elliot. He gave his life for the privilege of preaching the gospel in Ecuador to the Indians. He said this: he's no fool, he's a wise man, to give up what he can't keep. And you can't keep any of those. You'll leave your wife, your children, your job, and you'll leave your life. You're going to die. Nobody gets out of this life alive. He's no fool to give up what he can't keep, to gain what he can't lose. You gain his life at the cost of your life. If you want to keep your life, what you want, your wife, your children, your possessions, you'll lose his life. But if you're willing to lose your life, you'll gain his life. It's so simple, really. We make it complicated. Well, I'm sure you've been challenged. There's something wrong if you haven't, because very few people have counted the cost. So, have a blessed week. For God's sake, and your own, and keep thinking.